All right, guys, listen up. If you want to sleep like a gangster, go visit my friends at bearmattress.com/Chael. Use my code Chael. That's going to get you 40% off. That's not what they're offering the general public, guys. That is just for you. Bear Mattress is a premium fiberglass free mattress shipped right to your door. You don't need a pickup truck. You don't need 3 buddies. You just open the box, let it inflate, and boom, you've now upgraded your life. And here's the best part. Bear has now got a sleep quiz that'll match you with the perfect mattress. Me, I run a little hot. I like support, and Bear nailed it. It matched me with the Star Hybrid based on how I sleep. I've been sleeping on this thing for 2 months, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, it is the best I have felt getting out of bed in years. I stay cool. I'm not tossing around like a frog in a sock. And the whole thing is clean, safe, and fiberglass free. Bear's surveys show that people sleep better, recover faster, and feel better. And I believe it. You get free shipping, a 120-night sleep trial, a limited lifetime warranty, and financing options if you want them. Look, I love my Bear mattress. And you will too. Upgrade your sleep right now at bearmattress.com/Chael. Remember, code Chael gets you 40% off. Guys, do it today, because remember, champions don't procrastinate.
All right, I will be recounting 2025's top 5 fights for you. Now, to make the list is really a list of excitement. It was truly the best action. When I think about the best fights of 2025, when I think of the best fights for a night, for a year, for a weight class, I'm really talking about where did I get the most excitement? In which events did I find the most excitement? So I'm going to start with Merab at number 5. I'm going to start with Merab versus Nurmagomedov. There was a lot going on for that contest. Don't forget, this is when the Pacific Palisades catch fire. Everything's burned. We don't know if we're going to have a show. We get to the actual hotel that the UFC is staying at, and people can't get rooms, and fighters and UFC personnel cannot get rooms because the rooms have been given to displaced families. So like if there's ever a time you're not going to complain that your room is late, it's then. Not to mention there was dogs and cats everywhere, where the back reason for that, it was a hotel friendly atmosphere. The hotels were welcoming all of these displaced families, some of which had cats and some of which had pets. So would it matter? Would any of those things matter to fight in those conditions? Maybe not. But it's an unlikely condition that any of you are ever going to fight in. It's very unlikely that any of those athletes ever foresaw themselves in a situation like that having to go out and compete. So you get to fight day, or rather weigh-in day, which is Friday, and that's, of course, the phone call heard around the world where Umar Nurmagomedov decides he's not going to show up. He's not going to show up to the weigh-in. And the story's been told a few different ways, but the way that it happened was Umar Nurmagomedov did not show up to the weigh-in. It wasn't a matter that he had missed weight. It wasn't a matter by rumor that he was too heavy to beat the scale. A lot of those rumors came out later and even more recently, but I can tell you from being there that night, it was no part of it. Armin, around 3 a.m, had some pains in his back. His back was locking up. He decided to get a hold, through his management, he decided to get a hold of Dana White to say, I will not be participating in this fight, and moreover, I will not be at the weigh-ins, which open at 9 a.m. This is around 3 a.m., right? So in 6 hours, you're going to have to scramble, find somebody, and get them onto that scale because it won't be me. Now, the one way to get the word out is you can telephone, tell a friend, or tell a fighter. Either way, a secret is not going to be kept. So even if this was a 3 a.m. phone call from Umar Nurmagomedov to Dana White's private cell phone, by 3:30 a.m., every fighter in the hotel is going to be woken up and have a suggestion for who that backup fighter should be. Oh, I've got so-and-so out here. So-and-so is with it's little Timmy's training partner. He's more than ready. He'll step in. He'll do it. Oh, I know a guy. He lives up the road. Let me call him. Let me see if he can make weight. Like 100 of those phone calls get made before the UFC says, we've already got a guy. In that case, we've got Manny Moicano. So this is the buildup for the fight. Manny Moicano steps in to take on Islam Makhachev. Khabib is in the back. He is going to corner Islam Makhachev in a very different fight than he thought he was cornering him in almost a gimme style fight is how they would view the matchup of Manny Moicano versus the matchup that they were prepping for versus Sarukian. And in the locker room, they're going to have Umar. And they've got to get Umar ready to go out there and compete with Merab. And it's going to be one of the most difficult fights of Umar's career, but it is one that he's favored to win 2-1. Now, as great as Merab is, and as great as it turns out Merab turned out to be, right? Like as good as he looks and as many people as he's beaten, and he just won Fighter of the Year and he's the world champion. I apologize. He just lost his world championship, but he won the title of Fighter of the Year. There's things that he had to do to get there, and going through Umar was one of those things. Going through a fighter that the world didn't think that you could beat is one of those things. So having to go through Umar in a locker room that has the pressures of disappointment because the main fighter, Islam Makhachev, who is in the main fight known as the main event, will not be putting up the main prize, at least not against the main opponent. And everything gets weird. And if you're in Umar's spot, you try to ignore that out as best that you can. And you try to say, well, that doesn't change my situation at all. You try to do those things. But can you succeed? Do you successfully do those things, or do you just try to do those things? Interesting spot. So the fight breaks out. And, the fight breaks out. And this is very much supposed to go Umar's way. He is almost a 3-1 favorite, but Umar has never lost. And above everything else, the way that Merab wins fights, which is by wrestling, is what Umar is a master of. Not only is Umar supposed to beat him, he's supposed to beat him, and he's supposed to beat him easily. He's not only supposed to beat him easily, he's supposed to make Merab look bad because he can beat him at his own game. That's the story. That's the story going into this fight. And in the first round, as much as the second round, the idea of making him look bad was going out the window. But the idea of being able to beat him, to control him, to get the dominant positions, that idea is still very much alive for Umar. It's not until round 3 that we realize fatigue and conditioning can play hand. It's not until round 4 that we realize fatigue and conditioning are going to play a hand. And we get into round 5, it wasn't as obvious as some people like to make believe that it was. It was just a matter that at that point in round 5, Merab started having fun. That's one thing that you don't get very often in an MMA fight. You don't very often get to have fun, to enjoy yourself. And he did. You could tell that Merab could feel the crowd coming over. He could feel that he was going to have the points needed by the judges. He could feel that he was going to go to a decision. He could feel that his conditioning was going to hold up better than his opponents. And it really was the night that a star was born. So much went into the preparation of that match. So much went into the next match, into Islam having to walk out after the first time ever that his teammate tastes defeat. Enough to add to the story, but not quite enough to become the story. The fifth best fight of 2025 per my list, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab Dvalishvili.